Okay.
Hello, everyone. Lisa Bowles here. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday, February the 26th, 2026. How do you like those numbers? We are doing live for March. And I just wanted to let y'all know as you enter, thank you, Debbie, that Erica could not be here with us today. Send her your best. She's traveling. And Debbie Sherman has very kindly jumped in to sub for Erica. So say hi to Debbie. Say thanks, Debbie. Debbie, so appreciate you being here. Really.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. We haven't talked in a long time. It's just good to hang out with you. All right, everybody. I have notes. We're going to give it maybe one more minute before we dive in, just to give anyone who's a little bit late arriving a chance to arrive and take a deep breath. And it has been a wild ride. As most of you know, February was chock full of extraordinary astrology. Those of you who opted into living the deeper story of 2026, you know. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that as we go, because there's more, some of which is in March. March is more. And there's some really good stuff here, too, that I wanted to make sure we review together as a community so that you could take that and walk into your March with the context that should be able to help you navigate things at least a little more easily. Okay. If I don't make eye contact, it's not because I don't love you. It's because I will be checking my notes. But let's just review the first couple of slides before I transition over there. So, Debbie, could I see the next slide, please? There we go. So, as always, I just want to remind you of the great big backbeats that are having general sway over the year. And when I say general sway, in years past, that's what it was. It was general sway, but comparatively, wowza sway now. Okay. And you might find it useful to touch in with the guide from Live for 2026 to just refresh yourself about the tones and approach and characteristics of these massive backbeats, because they really matter. Okay. The implementation guide is probably the fastest way to touch in, but if you want a deeper refresher with more of the context, you might want to rewatch Live for 2026. Okay. Now, note that a couple of these are going to be moving. So, for example, in April, our benevolent rebel will be somewhere other than Taurus. And so these backbeats over the course of the year are going to change. So the first three are going to move. And you might want to keep that in mind. I'm going to touch on those when we get there, but you just might want to keep that in mind. Why? Because as these are proxies, so for example, Uranus is spending the last few weeks or months somewhere, the vibe changes a little bit. It's like, so how can we squeeze every last drop of juice out of the orange? Kind of a metaphoric vibe. All right. And that might be important to know, especially with Uranus, with Chiron, and with Jupiter. All right. Good. Next slide, please. All right. Shorter term influences still in play. So on the left-hand side, you can see when these influences first began. And then on the right-hand side, underlined, you can see when they begin to go out of effect. And there's a couple that go out of effect in March. Those are good dates to keep in mind because the vibe's going to shift some. Okay. Next slide, please. And I believe this is the point. Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to go to my notes. Hang on while okay, I got my notes. Next slide, please, Debbie. Thank you. All right. March the 2nd till April the 9th, our action instinct Mars shifts into Pisces. Okay. This is kind of a big deal because one of the big themes of this particular influence is the act of surrendering to the flow, which is not the normal vibe for Mars, our action instinct. But because he's going to be occupying and working through Pisces, the tone changes really significantly. Now, surrendering is a really interesting word because it is not supplication. It is surrendering. And that is a very different vibe. And it's one that confuses a lot of people. If it's something that's kind of a question mark for you because I've said this, please do some Google and word etymology. Like, go look at the roots of the word, because even there's some wonkiness in the language. So the confusion about this is understandable. But it's really good to have in your bones that surrender is not the same as supplication. Okay? And the thing about this that's really worth hanging out with is that surrender to the flow, and I don't mean the flow in general, although some of that does factor here. I'm talking about your flow. Okay? It's not go along to get along flow. It is, I have a rhythm, I have a pace, I have a flow. When I connect and I am in communication, in conversation, in creative conversation with my soul, my purpose, whatever you want to call it, that's what we're talking about. Because if you let yourself truly surrender to the flow, your flow, it could be the most productive move over the next 6 weeks. And the make it happen kind of vibe that's typically understood when it comes to Mars takes on a very different character. And that can carry you farther than you could imagine, honestly. So, I also want to say it's best to carve out dedicated windows of time for daydreaming. Okay? Seriously. I don't know how many of us were, it was communicated to us that daydreaming was not a productive use of your time, right? Well, with this influence, that ain't true. And it can be tricky because I can go into a flow state and daydream and lose track of time. This wants us to keep one eye on the clock and allow ourselves to daydream. So one of the things I'm going to recommend you do is if you want to give yourself an hour or half an hour or longer, put it into a timing device in your smartphone or on your laptop or your desktop, and give yourself an alert or an alarm when the time is up. So if you really don't want to be distracted by keeping your eye on your smartphone or device, that works really well. Okay. It's really important too, because of the vibe, these Mars working through Pisces doesn't want us to not have aims or goals, but it wants them to come from the soul, not from our conditioning about what's a valuable thing to have as an aim. You put that into the mix with surrendering to flow and those windows of allowed and wholehearted daydreaming. Ooh, this could be an incredibly powerful 6 weeks. Okay. Debbie, could you just check to make sure everybody's microphone is turned off, just so the recording's nice and quiet? Thank you. It also might come up that an old wound or the root of an emotional pattern that might have been interfering with your movement forward and with your ability to be courageous could surface during this time. And if that does become the case, I know pain's not fun. I know return to an old pattern is not fun. Most of us think we failed if that's the case. But here's what I want to say. Turn towards and welcome the pain, because this could be an extraordinary 6-week window for processing what's there so that it no longer interferes in ways, and it actually becomes stepping stone to where you want to go. Okay. Now, word of warning. And I don't say that easily or lightly. I often don't use the word warning, but I am going to with this one. Because there's so much Aries energy, and Mars is the overseer of Aries, there's an awful lot of inflammation in the field right now. Inflammation. So what can also bubble up is guilt or anger as you and the honest thing is the more you let yourself surrender and go into the flow, the more likely that stuff is going to bubble up, because the normal barriers, the things we kind of hold in place to keep it down, they're not going to be there, which can make surrender a little tricky. But here's the thing. Trust that each of those emotional bubbling ups, okay, pain, guilt, or anger, carries some wisdom with it. Maybe even a transformational wowza. If you let yourself be with it without trying to change or fix, okay, yourself in particular. And that could be the whole point of why you're experiencing what you're experiencing during this particular move, okay? One of the powerful things about our action instinct Mars is he carries the courage of the spiritual warrior. And when you team that up with the gentleness and compassion of Pisces, that is an incredibly healing vibe. So you might want to keep that in mind. This could be difficult for those who have historically been taught that being angry is dangerous. And a long-standing in our lifetimes or generationally that allowing ourselves to feel anger is just not kosher as a self-protection mechanism. This one could be tough. I just want to say that out loud. So if you're working with clients, just know that that will be in the air, and it's good to keep in mind. Might also be good to keep in mind for you. Okay? Next slide, please. March the 3rd. Oh, please put this in your calendar. It is a full moon lunar eclipse south node in Virgo. So I'm going to touch in real quick with what the south node offers, especially when it's working in Virgo. So south node is the place where we have developed, however you want to think of that happening, deep talent, giftedness at working with the oversight or themes of Virgo. Okay? But it's also the place we go to for comfort. If we've got, solidness, I'm good here, I got it. When we feel shaken or a little bit uncertain or a lot uncertain, when we feel vulnerable, what we'll attempt to do is go from the edge of development and evolution and building mastery right back to our comfort zone. And that can really interfere with things. And so what the South Node is urging us to do is find ways to release our connection to disadvantageous forms of comfort, okay? One of the fastest ways to help ourselves do that is to ritually celebrate and partner with this full moon. So here's some of the ways to do that. First is to really let yourself be in the serenity of a freshly cleaned space. Now that can be energetically cleaned, it can be physiologically, like all the things, okay? Follow your gut. And if you're someone like me who is not a domestic diva and finds the notion of cleaning just kind of really, space. Pick a space, particularly if afterwards you might put an altar there, or it is your altar space, and that's a place of devotion. So you can pick a space and not feel like you gotta, scour the whole house. This is also kind of attuned to a degree to the upcoming spring cleaning, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, urge to do spring cleaning. That starts to wind up around here and go into the upcoming equinox. Okay. Second thing is to really allow yourself to streamline your systems. Debbie and I were just talking about keep things as simple as possible and to use systems to help you streamline. Most of us, myself included, for some reason, we just like to make things complex. I don't know that we like to, we just tend to. What this wants to help us do is celebrate the streamlining of systems. And you might find it useful to just look at your systems to see if they can be made more simple while remaining as effective as possible. To celebrate your helpful spirit. And I mean that. Most of us are, by virtue of saying yes to our purpose and our desire to be agents of transformation, we're helpful people. But we don't often recognize and celebrate our helpful spirit. And this is a good time to do that. Being of service to those in need, but to do so in a way that includes you. Virgo, in many respects, is about self-possession, sovereignty, and self-care. So that when we are being of service, we include ourselves. That doesn't get missed. To acknowledge and celebrate that while you're helping people. 5, taking great care of your body. And I'm taking great care of your body. Sleep, hydration, all the things, okay? And then the last one, the magic of nature and organic beauty, to be in the recognition of and celebration of, and that includes our own nature, okay? If you're going to work with the eclipse and the nodal wa that's available here, here's a couple of tips, okay? When this energy, and it's big, just want you to know, it's big. What we're called to do is kind of review our life and edit out things that are no longer or have not been for some time good for us. Okay? And that can often include things we've been avoiding. Avoiding taking a good look at, avoiding telling ourselves the deeper truth about, you know what I mean, okay? Particularly daily routines that are just, they might have been real healthy and good for us at one time, but they're not anymore. And so this is going to nudge us. Now, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere and you've been living in wintertime, what this can mean is, we can kind of slide into habits of comfort. Oh, there's that word again. That ain't good for us. And while we might have indulged once, twice a season, during winter, we tend to indulge more. That might be part of this. Yeah. Do not be surprised if your ability to see this isn't in your hands. It's unconscious. You get a bit of a nudge or a wake-up call, okay? That will be this attempting in your favor to work for you, all right? The other thing that's likely to get stirred up is anything that's been in shadow around self-care, well-being, the well-being of your everyday work and the routines that has you live in that might not be good for you, or good for your work for that matter. And any shadows around self-possession, sovereignty, okay? Don't be surprised if you find yourself kind of into addressing one of your long-standing, quote unquote, bad habits. And one of the ones I've been watching surface in the last couple of days as we get closer and closer to this, because sensitives like us tend to do that, is overexerting ourselves or overextending ourselves or you know what I mean? Like we tend to overgive. Okay. Um, keep watch for that one because it seems to be surfacing for more people than I have seen in seasons past. All right. Um, and I talked earlier about streamlining things without overcomplicating. Please know that that's really a big deal and is going to surface for a lot of folks. One of the ways to help yourself with this is using automation and technology. And a lot of us have, oh, I don't know if I like technology or it overwhelms me, so no. Um, if it truly overwhelms you, and I mean truly, let it be. But if that is a defense against learning, stretching, you might want to take a closer look. Okay? Okay. Next slide, please. There we go. March the 6th till March the 30th, our charisma of cause, otherwise known as Venus, will be working in Aries. This is a very interesting mix given everything else that's going on and all the Aries energy that is wildly active right now. Okay? Um, so here's some really useful things to keep in mind and lean into. So, first, acting on what you love cranks things up to their highest setting for you till the 30th. Acting on what you love. And I don't mean, oh, I love that. I'm talking way down here. Does your life love? That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Um, love and its expressions are going to be coming in a variety of forms during this particular phase. It's going to want to uplift friendships, experimentations in relationship, and it's going to amplify the pull in you towards your own deepest, truest passions. Okay? Amplify, 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 amplify. Um, that might put a few people off because the pull inside of us to something, if you have, there's a lot of people in culture and society who are deterred from what they naturally love, being told that that's not practical, it's not going to earn you a living, all the things. Okay? The power of this magnetic pull to what you do, your life actually does love and is impassioned by, could feel a little, jolty, disconcerting, because we're used to being able to control this, put a lid on it, and that's going to be less likely during this particular month, in part because there's so much Aries energy going on. Please know if that is something that surfaces for you, breathe, and take whatever steps you feel you safely can in private first. Okay? Please also know that what you love, what you were born to love, what you're born to be passionate about, wants to love you back. And there's some gorgeousness out there waiting for you. Okay? The other thing that this also wants to help you experience more fully or deeply is whatever degree of freedom in relationship. And I'm not just talking about intimate relationship, although that could be a significant part of things for some, but to savor your freedom. Okay? To savor your autonomy. Okay? Really, really, what this wants to do is highlight places where there is unhealthy codependency so that you can move the edges of that for yourself and savor, delight in collaborative relationship in which you are both sovereign, self-possessed, and free, or freer. Okay? Don't be surprised if you start to find yourself falling back in love with an old hobby or an old interest. And I'm talking to my purposeful people here, because something that was meant to be a part of your body of work that got, for whatever reason, put on the back burner or just tucked away in a drawer, it could resurface and go, hello, come love me. I want to love you back. Okay? The truth of this period is that confidence is the most alluring accessory. And again, if you are, I'm just going to say this, if you are female or female identifying and the idea of being magnetically attractive is no small degree of concerning, this could be an uncomfortable period, because this wants to urge you to allow yourself to be more receptive and open, as well as magnetically. And a lot of us, myself included, and this rarely gets talked about, having control over the degree to which others are drawn to us is a really significant self-protection mechanism. And so some of us might find this period of time a little, yeah. That's part of the reason why I also want to say this. You're allowed to be pissed off about that. And you might need to be, so that you can find within yourself the engine of allowing that will open you and make you more available to your own magnetism. Okay? Okay. Next slide, please. March the 10th. Our fortune finder Jupiter, who has been retrograde for some time in Cancer, that retrograde ends. So if you have felt, as many have, a kind of emotional limbo going on for you, no more. All right? Matters close to your heart will begin to flow in a forward direction again. And decisions, and I have found it appropriately difficult because of this retrograde to make some emotional decisions, particularly around home and family life. There's just been a kind of muddled feeling, because this here was asking us to review more deeply about why we have decided what we've decided emotionally, and if we've been conscious about it. Because the expansive nature of the effect of that might not have been seen as closely as we would ordinarily want. And so it's been a review. The thing I want to encourage you to do, so when this shifts, many people are going to feel, oh my God, that feels better. And the urge to just rush and forward on without taking into account why we were there and why we felt we couldn't move forward for good reason. All right? So take a beat or two and just review. Alrighty? This will help you take action on all the feelings you've been processing over the last 4 months. But again, take a beat or two so that you make what's been processing largely under the surface, make it conscious, so the decisions are both emotional and conscious. Okay? I also want to just give you a bit of a heads up, because you might find in the days immediately following this, or even a couple of days leading up to this, you might find that the inner processing only got so far, and now, because this is approaching or begins, that you need to have a good, big, fat, ugly cry. Do a little primal screaming, or book an extra therapy session. The energetic release possible for some will be immense and good for you. Just notice if there's any reluctance to let yourself, because our fortune finder Jupiter, big energy. It amplifies and expands. And so this could feel big, but the outcomes of letting yourself have that release, ooh, baby. Keep this in mind for clients too. Okay. What's on the other side of that release is enormous. The last thing I just want to also say is building up to this, because we've got, a few days, not quite 2 weeks, building new support networks might be a really advantageous way to approach this and then live in the release after. Because often after processing, what many of us will discover is that we don't have adequate support systems, or those who've been part of our support systems until now aren't the ones to continue on with. Keep this in mind if you're working with clients. Okay. Next slide, please. March the 13th. Ooh, baby. So this is part of the next two plus the eclipse. This is the more of March that I was talking about in the emails you were sent. Our action instinct Mars in a really rare meetup with the North Node, okay, in Pisces. And North is where we go to develop new capacities and mastery. It's out into relatively experientially unknown, and it's a place that is both massively opportune and more than a little unsettling and even scary for some of us. So this means that our intuition will be revving high. Okay? As Mars, our action instinct, lines up with the North Node in Pisces, intuition will be off the charts. But that intuition will be urging us to take action of some kind, mostly towards our deepest dream. And I want you to know that because of the really unique and rare nature of this team up, the way or the orientation, the direction, the action our intuition tells us is our next step or two could defy logic, could have you go, what? No, that's nuts. Because your logical mind's not going to be able to make sense of this. This is not the moment for step-by-step strategy, okay? Although your life may tell you, I ain't moving until you give me more, that won't help. Tap in here deeply. If it feels true, even though this goes a little snarly about it, go where you are directing yourself. Now, I want to suggest that you put yourself into a quiet meditative space where you can tune into your inner compass. Seriously. So please put this date and the next date I'm going to talk about into your calendar with a chunk of time where you can go be quietly meditative and tune in. Because your deeper consciousness holds the clues to the next steps, even if you can't see. All right? And also be prepared that over the course of the day, you might get kind of sudden, courageous urges to go do things that was not on your bingo card for this year. Okay? And if discomfort bubbles up, don't back down. It's a sign that you're breaking through your own. Okay? And that's useful. All righty? Okay. Now, here's the next one. Next slide, please. 17th, our communication savant, Mercury, teams up similarly in very rare meetup with the North Node in Pisces. Oh my goodness. All right. So things to know about this. And again, reserve some time this day, put it in your calendar and carve out a chunk of time where you can be quietly meditative, because it will help. Here's why. First, old dysfunctional narratives will likely resurface. Okay? A conversation from the past, an unresolved question, or a buried dream that involves some kind of communication first with you and you, or you and whatever you want to call it, and then by extension or post process with the outer world. Okay? Big, big, big. Okay? Anything that's been playing on repeat or comes back up that used to play on repeat in your head, living rent free against your wishes in here, that's what you want to pay attention to, particularly if it has kept you from leaning into the development of new forms of mastery. Okay? Okay. And it will likely come clearer if you let yourself be meditative and process. Now, that old conversation, that old narrative might be one that you, for just the sake of your sanity or even self-preservation, you did this with, or some part of your intelligent psyche did this with because that was the best option at the time. Having it resurface could be disturbing because you might have thought, oh, I got that licked, as if there's any such thing. Like there's no once and done, there's layers. And these layers will resurface so that you can process the next piece of it. Okay? So if it feels, but then go to your intuition. Not because you're trying to eradicate it, but because you're trying to unravel the wisdom in it and liberate yourself with that gained wisdom. Okay? Get curious. Really let yourself be curious. Ask questions. That will take some bravery. Okay? Because there's wisdom to unpack in whatever resurfaces or circles back. Don't rush to formulate answers or draw conclusions. That's not what this is about. It isn't about how quick can I get there so I can be done with this. Now, I know the temptation well. But again, let yourself be as curious as you possibly can be so that you can touch more layers than rushing to answers will give you. And this will take you much farther. And to do it in a quiet meditative state will help. All right? Instead, you want to slow down. You want to ask yourself, where am I feeling this in my body? What does my body carry? And what does my body know about this? And it could be a racing heart, a pounding in your temples, some throat tightness, like wherever. Place your hands there for comfort and stretch. Be slow. Be compassionate. Okay? Not performatively compassionate, but genuinely hold that and yourself and let what's going to surface. Okay? Now, with this and the one on the 13th, I just want you to know, if you're sensitive, as many of us are, you could feel this the day before, the day of, and the day after. Like it just could be something you feel in anticipation, especially if there's something there for you. Okay? I am creating spaces in my days leading up to this and for the first couple of days after, because I might be discombobulated, and that's okay. Just wanted you to know these are wildly advantageous and opportune chunks of time. It's not just the day of. And if you can create space for yourself, holy moly, the evolution that will be possible. Okay, next slide, please. March the 18th. Okay, so this is the day after, right? So I'm paying because the new moon in Pisces energy, that Hello, Pisces, Pisces, Pisces. We want to go into the watery, wise depths of our emotional intelligence for all kinds of reasons. And that is teamed up with the intensity of a new moon. Okay. So if you can, like, just mark off this 10-day, maybe even 14-day period. Extremely opportune and useful, even though it might feel discombobulating. It's one of the best times all year to receive what some would call divine downloads. And you're going to want to capture every sparkling gem. So you might want to have a notebook handy. And seriously, you might want to have, and I don't do notebooks, I do audio notes that get transcribed into physical notes. Streamlined, simplified technology. Did I say that? I also want to suggest that many of us might find our dream time, and I mean that in sleep, that the day before, the day of, and day after, and for a couple of days after that, could be very active. And I will be having my audio notes right beside my bed because that's what tends to happen for me. Make time and space to unplug, to snooze, to meditate, to just allow the floodgates of your imagination to open, because it's very likely they will. And you may find yourself surprised by what surfaces when you give yourself the space and time to listen, because that's what this new moon in particular is going to be asking us for ourselves. Okay? Now, this means that the line between what is conscious and what is unconscious, what is manifest and what is, in spirit or etheric, that the line between those two is going to be blurry. Okay? And that often means that the lines between what is real and what is fantasy can be blurry too. So what I want to suggest you do is not make any really big decisions the day before, the day of, and the day after. All right? Note what comes up. Pay attention if it stirs your deeper dreams and your passion about them, but don't make any immediate decisions. And I also want you to know, if you've been hanging on to something that's outlived its purpose, an old story, an obligation that's been draining you, a lingering attachment, consider this particular new moon the beginning of a very gentle releasing or letting go process. And it wants to help that be gentle. Because if you've been white knuckling it a bit without really realizing it, gentleness is the thing. Alrighty? And again, if you have clients, that'll be useful to know. Next slide, please. There we go. March 20th till April the 19th. Ooh, this is part of the March is more. Our force of nature, the sun, shifts into Aries. Wow. And we come across the spring, or if you happen to be in the southern hemisphere, the fall equinox. So a happy astrological new year, because when the sun moves into Aries, that's the beginning of a brand new year. This is when, in my life, I feel the impetus that many people try to have manufacture at the beginning of a new year. Now, there's some reasons for that, because all kinds of Capricorn energy is often very active, but this feels and has always felt the more natural beginning of a new year to me. Okay? So if you've been feeling that cycle, but the way the world works has felt in, just know that there's a reason. Your natural rhythm attunes to this. Okay? So, it's fresh start time. And that's what I feel at this time of the year. What does fresh start mean? It doesn't mean new year, new you kind of marketing stuff, because this isn't about becoming a new you. It's about um how do we say this? One, it's the time that we kind of take ourselves out of what often can feel for many the doldrums of winter. I'm talking to the Northern Hemisphere people here right now. Um, the spring cleaning urge, the urge to be out, to breathe fresh air, to move more, to be in the body, to fresh start, to kind of lift ourselves out of the cocooning and the comforting that winter, fall and winter has often brought. And, you know, if you live in the Northeast United States where there has been some wild snowfall, you will probably be very, very happy about this coming around. What we want to do is things like replace craft supplies that we can do cozied up at home with garden tools, for example, or to go from couch potato to walking in the neighborhood. You know, that kind of thing is a way to invite this energy into your life. And I mean that sincerely. The more we let Aries energy, Aries again, kind of naturally bubble up, surface, because Aries energy at its core is that I want to live. It is the germinated seed sending up shoots with a kind of force that gives it the ability to break through topsoil that often is hard to shoot up through dark, heavy earth so that it can surface and go, that's the vibe now. Okay? The other thing that I want you to know, because there's so much Aries energy active, is that there is likely going to be an urge towards maximalism. Okay? Do a Google if that term is not familiar to you. Don't be surprised if you see it, if you notice it in your communities, if you, just don't be surprised. What I am going to say to you is this. If you're in the middle of a kind of renovation of your home or redesigning your website or your presence online during this period, or even redoing your hair or your wardrobe, the urge towards maximalism could be very present, and it might not be what you want long term. So take that into account. If you're a designer, an interior designer, a hairdresser, someone who works in those areas, you want to be thoughtful about that. Okay? Now, I also want you to know that the competition vibes could be very, very, very fierce for the 4 weeks of this. And because there is so much inflamed Aries energy around, I wanted to offer you that as a to keep in mind for yourself when encountering other people who are not tracking this stuff and don't know that they might need to be governing themselves a little more carefully. Alrighty? We've just come off the Olympics where the spirit of good-hearted competition helps people kind of migrate into their next best expression. That's the vibe that you want to occupy. Okay? And just for the record, you know, when people occupy that energy well, they're happy for competitors that do succeed. Yeah? So it isn't just I want to win, it's I want all of us to win. That's the deepest heart of this beat. And I want to make sure you knew that too. Okay? Next slide, please. There we go. So one day, but follow on drastic change. And this is the same day as the influence we just talked about. Our communication savant leaves retrograde. Okay, now that retrograde started today. So today, this one begins. Let's talk about what the experience of this has or will be kind of like for some of us, and what the relief points are likely to be. So, one, a lot of us are going to feel like we can't talk. And I don't mean because someone's got us by the throat. I mean, we are in, and this is Pisces, so we're in deep review, emotional intelligence review about the way we communicate. And communication isn't just the spoken, it's the written, it's the way our body language communicates. So it's all that. All right. And if you find yourself feeling a little murky, things are a little confusing, things are a little irregular. If you find yourself crying and what is this? Like, it doesn't feel connected to anything. That's because you're going into emotional depths without the oversight of the logical, linear, rational mind. And attempting to clear something so that your communication, when this ends on the 20th and in the days that follow, yeah. Now, this could feel like a really big relief to a lot of people because the depths of this could be pretty significant. I also want you to know that this may take you into a place of where chronic misunderstandings or miscommunications have kind of been experienced throughout your life. In part because you're wanting to untangle the pattern so that you can see the flip side of the pattern. So I'm just going to say this out loud for everybody. What we've tended to do is see patterns as inherently bad because we don't have control over them. But the truth of the matter is there's two sides. One is the pattern that feels outside our control and on repeat. We repeat until we can see what's in there that's wise, what's in there that is elevating, what's in there that is liberating, what's in there that is insightful. Okay? That's going to be happening for a number of us. Again, think about this when you're working with clients. Because what we're attempting to do is find our way into healing reconciliations. But I want you to know the reconciliation starts here with us. Because very often the communication is with us first. Because we've experienced something and internalized something and turned away from ourselves, or because we didn't know we were in an ongoing, dynamic, active, inspired conversation with our soul, with life, and we got turned away and we're attempting to come back to it. Okay? Okay. I also want you to know contracts that were held up in red tape or what felt like unnecessary deliberation or just postponed for some reason you can't put your finger on or nobody can or will, they could finally move into the negotiation and signing phase. And that, okay? So anything that got held up will finally start to move, and that will be a relief for many of us too. Next slide, please. Alrighty. Last big influence of the month. March 30th till April 24th, our charisma of cause moves again. Venus, this time into Taurus. And she loves being here because this is home. Home sweet home. Okay? Yeah. There will be a heightened hunger and need for simple, human, earthy pleasure. And that is the fragrance of fresh flowers, or again, Northern Hemisphere, budding flowers on the trees, if that starts to happen where you live. It can be, I want delicious food I want fresh food. I want long, lingering moments with the people that matter most to me. I want clothes and linens that feel good. You know, all the kind of earthy, physical, because when she's here, baby, baby, okay? And also to know that if your appetite gets whetted, like if you have a delicious meal, just know that while she's here, she's going to want more. Like don't be telling me what I can have and what I can't. If you are someone who's watching to make sure that they put good healthy food into their body, because we talked about that a little bit earlier. Thank you, Virgo. Um, know that you can have delicious, scrumptious, titillating food that is healthy. Okay. Okay. What might feel particularly right is much. Because when Venus is here in Taurus, she wants it all. Gimme. Okay. So the notion of too much of a good thing turned inside out while she's here. Okay. I also want you to know that relationships can deepen and stabilize. Relationships that have been difficult, troubling, or just kind of fritzy. And I'm talking about personal relationships, but I'm also talking about relationships with the communities that we have the privilege and honor of convening. Okay? Keep that in mind. And that can be incredibly, incredibly useful. Alrighty? Okay. That's it for the big moves. Let's talk about, next slide, please. Let's talk about, oh, wait, I forgot about that. Oh, yes. We're going to be talking about that later because you can still tune in and it matters because there's so much going on that could be favorable if you know how to partner with it. And I want to help you live. I want to help all of us. I'm practicing. I want to share those practices with you so that we can optimize the opportunities of the year. So hey, stay tuned. We'll be talking about that more. Next slide, please. Opportune days. Ready? Next slide. So starting on the 5th of March, emotions plus optimism are going to run high that day. And feelings, so this is just FYI, feelings normally suppressed could just flow out. Now, they're going to lean towards optimistic expression, but first they're just going to have to flow, and letting them matters. I want you to know that Jupiter's involved here and our sun. So the volume of emotional experience could be quite high. If you're accustomed to someone who's like, oh, that's too much, just put this in your calendar so you don't feel kind of blindsided by an emotional, and you can give yourself some room and space for it to just let it. It'll be like a big fat rainstorm. The rain will come and then the clouds will go. Okay? Allow it to move through you rather than trying to tamp it down. Okay? Next slide, please. Oh, no, go back. I'm sorry. Thank you. March the 8th. I forgot it was on the same slide. This is a total package people kind of day. What do I mean by that? You are likely to encounter people who are the total package in your work, for collaborations, and for supportive relationships. Now, most people, whenever they hear total package, they think, ooh, she's, or ooh, he's, or whatever the case might be. That is also possible. But for our purposes, I'm talking about if you've been looking for a collaborator that is, quote unquote, the total package for your work and for working with you, big fat opportune day. Okay. If you've got a list of what the total package is, you might want to throw that or put it aside maybe not throw it away, but just put it to the side. Because what your life knows is the necessary total package might surprise you. Okay? Debbie, now we can do the next slide. Thank you. So, March 21st. This one comes with an uplifting vibe and amped courage, teamed up with compassion. Oh my goodness. I have this one in my calendar, big time, especially in the midst of all those other things going on, because this could be a wild day to put into how I proceed with some stuff that's been stirred up or made available to me. And this is worth taking stock of. It's a stellar day for taste tests, webinars, and the like, because your wisdom will have a ripple effect on things, on the community, on like, just make sure you put this in your calendar if that appeals and you could use the uplift. All right. It'll be like flying a kite in a way. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. Inspiration strikes, kind of a day. I've got this one in my calendar too, cause wow. Again, have a notepad, have your audio recorder on hand, because it could come a little fast and furious. Okay. Now, I also want to say not all fabulous ideas are meant for you or your work. So take stock of the insights and inspiration that come, and then watch to see if at the end of the day or next day, day after, which one of these have kind of surfaced before in some way, shape, or form. Because it's the ones that are repetitively coming to you or the ones that are meant for you. It's not just the big fat ding necessarily. So keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm stuffed up. Neutral days. We've got more of them. And in particular, the first of the neutral days, there's two influences that we're going to pay attention to. Next slide. So the 7th is a big day. I've got this marked in my calendar too. So first, rose-colored glasses, blurry lines, blurry, and magnetism dialed way up. Now, you heard what I said earlier about being attractive and magnetism and all those things? Okay, so just know that this is an excellent day for practicing discerning self-possession, because the rose-colored glasses, blurry lines, things, it's a great day to practice discernment, because practicing discernment develops, deepens, and builds self-possession. So we don't let rosy views kind of run away with us when things aren't quite so sharp. And I mean sharp viewed. That magnetism piece, that's also a really good time to work with our aversion to being. Okay? It's a real thing, I promise you. Then on the 2nd, on the 7th, buried feelings may rise up that day. Okay? And those feelings are often also things that kind of knock us out of self-possession. Okay? Because we don't want them and we, kind of manhandle ourselves into, I don't want to feel that. And because this takes over and this kind of loses sway. So sleeping on any upset before shooting off a text or making a call, get it off my chest kind of conversation, take a day, take 2, seriously. And lean into, there's a really interesting thing about this. The rose-colored glasses could be a way that you, because many of us do that, I sure have. We put on rose-colored glasses and tell a more unnaturally optimistic story to take the edge off the truth that comes with buried feelings. And that could run away with you too. Okay? So keep that in mind. This is a really good day for deep work. So if you're working with clients or you have a session yourself that day, really opportune. Next slide, please. We're a little bit over time, folks. It's about 4 minutes after the top of the hour. I apologize. There was just a lot to cover. March the 8th, inarguable truths and feelings will bubble up for examination, kind of a day. And it's excellent for compassionately discerning self-possession practices. Though it's not the best day because Mercury's in retrograde to share widely about what you're experiencing. Keep it for yourself. Not because you're trying to keep secrets, but because, how should we say this? The moment we share deeply while we're in the midst of processing essentially means that your process belongs to the outer world, at least to a degree. And you're allowed to want to just have this for yourself right now. Okay? All right. March the 25th, I think the next slide, please. Day of challenges when strength is both tested and fortified. Now, this particular influence involves Saturn, and there's a bit of a self-check that's really going on with it. The challenges aren't there to mess with you or infuriate you or just kind of, make life difficult. It's because there's something we need to observe or check before we proceed. And the way that the world has taught us to manage this is we either go into and try and power through it, not helpful, or we go into collapse. This is bigger than me. I don't have any power. I don't have any agency. That's not the way. Either what this wants to do is help us cultivate self-possession and strength and review things a little more objectively, but that might feel hard. Okay? It's a great day for building self-possession. And then the last one, March 26th, old hurts around love and trust or self-worth, self-valuation, not commoditization, but self-valuation deeply experientially, likely to surface on this day. Okay? New perspectives on how to heal, also likely, if you're able and willing to meet your pain with compassion and curiosity. We've talked about that a couple times. Okay? Okay. Next slide, please. Now we've got the hotspot days. We only got one on the 15th. I'd mark this one down. Okay, next slide, please. This day, tempers are likely to be fiery. There's likely to be greater degrees, like resentments will bubble up. Things that we might have been sitting on, or we've been present to them for a while, but we haven't really let it rip. And testy truths, all likely to collide this day. So, one, I do not recommend taste tests, webinars, anything where you're introducing something to the folks that you serve. Like, just, I wouldn't even attend one someone else is hosting. I'm just not. Because there'll be a great many people for whom they won't be in a self-governing, self-possessed place with this. So I wouldn't do that. And I'm probably going to stay off the socials this day. Okay. Okay. Next slide, please. Favorite fields. Next slide, please. Okay. So first, I just want you to check in with both February's, because February has had so much. The favorite fields from February are worth reviewing again, and so are those that were listed for live for 2026. If you're a member of the current, we went deeper with the formations. Touch in with that too, in case. The ones on the left, we're taking stock of. The ones on the right, 8 through 12, holy moly. So centrally sacred rituals work, helping people develop rituals that coincide with all the yum that comes because Venus is going to be working through Aries. And inhabiting rituals that make action sacred for you. Okay? But it has to involve a sacred, an action component. It's not just being active with the ritual by creating a ritual. It's also Okay. Soul goals work. Well, what? How do I touch that? Generative surrender work. So most people, many of us, so I made the distinction between surrender and supplication. I'm going to say that again. But also because there's so much Aries energy, how do you be in surrender and be generative? That's the question. Don't be surprised if there's some new work here. If this is your wheelhouse, if this is your purposeful work, don't be surprised if that shows up. Because that's a big deal this year. Active loving work. How do you be loving in an active way that involves living differently, to some degree behaving differently? Active loving, again, another phrase or permutations of that phrase I will not be surprised to see start to bubble up or go further than they already have. And then inner compass driven work. That is massive. And again, I will not be surprised to see some developments there. That's why the asterisks, these particular 5, okay, touch in with your own purposeful work. Don't be surprised if there's developments here. If this is your wheelhouse, this is not the kind of stuff you can just go, oh, this is a trend people want. I'll do that. If it's not yours, let it be. Okay. Next slide, please. Live for April. Now, this is a different week, folks. It's Thursday, March the 19th, rather than the final Thursday of the year. This has happened once already this year. Let me explain why. Normally, about September, October, I go into my calendar for the upcoming year and I block off Thursday, the last Thursday of every month, so that there's room for live. I forgot to do that this year. So by the time I went, oh, wait, my Thursdays, my last Thursday of the month got booked with client work. So that's why this one is happening on March the 19th. I apologize for the change in rhythm, but if you could adjust with me, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Thursday, March 19th at our usual time of 1 p.m. Eastern. Just check for your local time. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. You can still join Living the Deeper Story of 2026. There are 3 powerful quarters still to partner with and optimize. Okay. If anybody here has been participating in Living the Deeper Story and you have something you want to share about your experience, please do so in the chat. It has been remarkably powerful and we're just getting started. So if you kind of were thinking about it, but it got away from you, use that link down below. That's the link to pop into the chat, Debbie. You can purchase the course for just $300 or join the current annual and you get the course plus everything else. Okay. And if you become a monthly member, you get 40% off the course or 40% off $300 and everything else that's there. Okay. Please consider it. Please, if you notice yourself going, oh, we're already in. Well, yeah, we are. And the magnitude of this year, don't let that stop you, please, for yourself. All righty? Okay. Next slide, please. I believe this is the last one. Any questions, any shares? If you're listening or watching the replay, please come on over to the Facebook group. It's private, okay? And let me know if you've got a question or anything kind of just went, yeah, come on over to the Facebook group. I'm in and out of there often. It's private. Nobody else but us sees it. And I'd love to support you. Which of March's influence are already calling you? Can you notice? You have a question right now you'd like to share? And I'd love to hear. And if you put something into the chat, I haven't seen it because I've been focusing on making sure I didn't miss anything. So anybody got any ahas or questions that they'd like to share? You're welcome, Polly. No? Everybody good? Or you just kind of, that was a lot. This year is a lot. That was a lot, says Kalia. Yeah. Okay. There was a lot in February. There's still a lot. That's the year. Polly says, yes, good and beautiful. Excellent. Okay. So no questions, no shares. Okay. We are past our time. Let me just double check. 2:15 Eastern time. If a question comes up, something that you're kind of going, please do come over to our Facebook group. Debbie, very kindly, you're welcome, Huena. Very kindly put the link to the Facebook group in the chat. You might want to copy that and just tuck it away somewhere secure so that if in the days ahead, as you're starting to work with these influences, a question comes up, you can go use the link. All right. Okay. Sylvia said, need time to absorb. I feel you. I feel you. I began working on both February and March in particular, because there's a lot toward the end of last year. So yeah, I really do. Okay, friends. Patrice is very helpful. I appreciate all the explanations. Good. I hope they're useful. Context can be very useful. Okay, friends. Then I think maybe we're just going to leave it there for today. All right. All right. Thank you again, Debbie, for being here. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you're a member of the current, I want you to watch the Facebook group, the private Facebook group for the current membership, because we're going to be posting some things throughout the month there. You're probably going to want to know about. It will help. Alrighty? Okay. And Erica, thinking about you. If you want to take yourself off mute so you could say goodbye, I would love to hear your voice.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye for now.
Take care.
Thank you, Lisa.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take good care, folks.
Will do.
Feel better, whoever's got that cough.
That's
Bye.
me.
Is that you? Oh,
Yeah.
take good care, you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again, Debbie.